Hello, I'm Rupert, and today we're doing a video on visionary competence. Why is visionary competence so important? That's because we're constantly developing things that decide about our future life in 2 or 5 or 10 or 20 years or even beyond that. Of course, we cannot predict the future, but we influence it, we shape it. Possibly you're thinking about changing your job, or going abroad, or buying a house or an apartment, or marrying or splitting up. Or imagine a company is deciding on a new product and reflecting about the investments they're about to take. And they're unsure what the specifics should be exactly for that it matches with the market in 5 to 10 years' time. Or on an even bigger scale, a cityscape should be redone, and a vision is needed for that. Or about reshaping and modernizing the healthcare system. A very natural thing is that we talk to other people then. In our private context, we may talk to our partners or to friends. Companies probably are talking to customers or to market researchers or management consultants. So we need a dialogue about that. And I want to talk now about the question, who is it that we should be talking to? Who are the people that have visionary competence? How can we benefit from this? So when it's about topics related to our lives in 2030, in 2040, 4 things are important. And I want to explain them to you right now. First of the 4 is potentials. We get moving with larger topics when we're convinced of the goal and the path to leads to it. When we're convinced that something bigger can come up with that. Then we start a further education, we found a company, we possibly go abroad. We do this when we're convinced that what we can achieve is worth investing our time, our money, our energy, possibly even our health. The second is visions. We give a positive future a first sketch, an outline, possibly even a guiding light. For example, I say to myself, I want to work self-determined and lead a healthy life. Or as a country, in 2030, 80% of the energy we spend comes from renewable energy. So we give our imagination of a positive future a first shape by words, by pictures, or by other forms. So number 3 is developments. New things or behaviors don't fall from heaven, they emerge step by step. And there are many things and surprises and twists are involved in these processes. So changes in our personal life or a new product, a complex product that a company develops, it takes time. Or so reshaping a cityscape, developing a health system takes time. So the future emerges step by step, we shape it. So the 4th one is about decisions. Is this decision more likely to lead to the everyday life we want for tomorrow, or maybe that one? And if we think ourselves into the everyday life of tomorrow, it helps us to take the right decision, because then we can get aware of the emotions that possibly are at work then. So on a small and a large scale, it is about potentials, visions, developments, and decisions. But what are the challenges that come with wanting to look into the future, of developing some sense for it, what may come, what should come? I want to present 6 perspectives, 6 approaches that make it more accessible. I'd like to call them the 6 future lenses, and let me present them to you right now. So now we come into the first of the 6 lenses. The future arises from the interplay of continuity and change. I made this drawing 20 years ago during an internship in New York, the Queensboro Bridge where I sat, and most of the buildings are still standing. And the fascination and influence of New York City is unbroken. Likewise, most residents continue to care about their friends and family, their freedoms and opportunities in life. So continuities blend with enormous changes that happened since then. There were no smartphone, no Instagram, no metaverse. Far fewer women or people from diverse backgrounds were in leadership positions. China's GDP was only 1/9 the size of today's. And China was the 6th largest economy behind France. Ecological crises were rarer, and awareness of health and the impact of nutrition was significantly weaker. So it's always this interplay of continuity and change the future is built of. New developments emerge when things that used to be separate get connected. The combination of telephone and radio resulted in the cell phone. The connection of computer and data transmission gave us the internet. Cell phone and internet became the smartphone. And the smartphone was linked to countless other applications that are part of our everyday lives today. Some of the things that motivate us remain the same or similar and are mixed with gradual or even drastic changes and a lot of new things. Cars, for example, are being developed with new camera functions, sensors, GPS, and increasing computing power, new combinations that enable them to drive autonomously. Trends are the spread and normalization of something new. Home office and online meetings are common practice in professional life today, everyone knows that. So is working in cafes or lounges like in this picture. Part-time is now an option even for people who had never previously imagined it. Diversity in company leadership was a rarity on supervisory boards until it became more matter of course in recent years. Also in our private lives. Trends are shifting our perceptions so that previously edge phenomena now seem normal. More and more people are cutting down on meat, sugar, cow's milk, and vegan food has become highly popular. Yet, trends are non-linear processes, not least because during the normalization of something new, various new varieties and sometimes counter-developments arise. The decisive question is, where does a new space of opportunity emerge that creates further growing potentials, even if 10% of us are already doing it today? The fourth lens is about the interaction of trends with more stable motive and value sets. People want to be connected with others. They pursue their goals, show their achievements, and express themselves. We like beauty and comfort, and so did our grandparents. Much what drives us today has also driven previous generations. Thus, motives and value sets work as stabilizers in the stream of the new, and still they are recalibrated. Being healthy was already an important value in the 1950s and 60s, but health definitely plays another role today than back then. Due to the war in Ukraine, peace today has much more presence than 10 years ago. Our central values, as well as fundamental motives such as affiliation, power, and achievement, are a fluid paradigm in the flow of changes. They remain, and yet they are varied. Therefore, it is no wonder that we see traditional weddings happening in the metaverse. And when we think of the fascinating use cases based on virtual reality glasses, from gaming and workout till travel, education, and modern healthcare, we can be sure that the upcoming routines are shaped by the blending of technical possibilities with enduring motives and values. Shifts in motive and value sets lead to cultural change. Cultural change continuously interacts with structural change. In recent decades, aerobics, fitness, yoga, and Pilates studios mushroomed. Physical and social desires and motives played together here. In the pandemic period, these studios reinvented themselves virtually, sitting at home on the home trainer and meeting up with a global community via streaming to work out together, no problem. In general, streaming platforms have become an integral part of our home media structure over the last decade, and even more so since COVID. Dating apps become as normal as previously red roses. This results in a kaleidoscope of trends and areas of life that are closely linked to technological, sociopolitical, economic, and cultural factors. It is worth looking at these fields both individually and in their interaction. On the whole, this complex interplay is not calculable. Above all, there are always surprises, sometimes outright disruptions. For example, various studies had the danger of pandemics and their rapid spread through international networking and air travel on their radar. But the far-reaching effects and changes that COVID-19 triggered worldwide from the beginning of 2020 on were not foreseeable. Some even phrased it, we were catapulted many years into the future just over one weekend. So anyone who deals with future topics and visionary competence should bear in mind that black swans are more common than you think. Therefore, We should think more in terms of possibility spaces and scenarios, combining analytical approaches with creative associative ones. So between today and tomorrow, there are millions of trends and shifts. And we can say there's not one future. We could even say there are 8 billion futures on this planet. So I must admit it's not easy to look at 8 billion futures through 6 future lenses. But these approaches and perspectives definitely help to understand, to sense the changes and the potentials that there are. So people with visionary competence, they kind of have that embedded in their perception, these 6 future lenses I mentioned. So the key ingredient is visionary competence. And in which situations is it enormously important? It's always good to have it, but there are 3 aspects. One is if the time span is very long. Because the longer the time span, the more difficult it is to imagine how many changes might come into play. The second aspect is if heavy investments are involved, because then it's not reversible. It's good to take decisions well. If we buy a house, if we marry, if we go abroad, if we invest heavily in a new product as a company, or if we reshape a healthcare system, for example. And the third one is if it's very complex, if it's difficult to get a clue what is important, if it's fuzzy in a way, intangible, then visionary competence gives the chance to make it more concrete, to create a real vision we can going for. So these are the main aspects when we need that. So who are the people that have visionary competence, that collect all the signals and bring them together and can create something based on that? They understand the needs and motives of themselves and also from others and create a good concept for our lives in a few years' time based on that. So basically, who should we be talking to? Who could that be? Let's go through diverse options we have. We might be thinking about talking to our friends, maybe 500 or 1,000 friends on Facebook or on Instagram, or the people from LinkedIn. It's good for either or decisions, Pepsi or Coke, vacation or working, staying at home or traveling. Another quite normal option would be to talk to partners, to talk to people from our family. But they are very closely involved, so it's more difficult to be objective. So in many cases, there probably will not be the ideal option. What could we do then? We could do classic market research. We could be talking to customers. Yeah, we could do surveys and ask 2,000 people. It helps when it's about feedback to given topics, to given objects, things, services. But when it's about the future and more complex to imagine, then probably not the ideal option. Then we might be talking to management consultants. That may be good if it's about modeling, if you can calculate something, if it's tangible. But when it comes to intangible topics, where it's very complex and fuzzy and many aspects come together, probably not ideal. It's crucial that experience and open-mindedness come together. So people who have the appropriate antennas are trend receivers. Trend receivers are defined as individuals who perceive changes and potentials of the new in a highly differentiated and sensitive manner. And it's very important to note that nobody can oversee everything. So trend receivers in the fashion industry are different persons than trend receivers in the energy industry. So we have to differentiate whom is the right trend receiver for what. And there are always 4 criteria that make people with visionary competence that make trend receivers. The first one is that these persons must have context experience in the given topic. They must know firsthand what are the driving motives, what are the needs. The second criteria is the ability to abstract from themselves, to take your own perception and your own preferences as a reference and to see where others are different and to understand the patterns that way. The third criteria is heterogeneity, being well networked, being very curious and getting so many news and weak signals and to bring all that together. And then the fourth one is selection competence, to differentiate what has a high probability to be relevant tomorrow still and what are the new patterns that are coming up, to combine the old and the new and to filter out what really gains importance. So let's apply this approach to 3 concrete situations. First, one we all know. We wonder how to develop us further in the professional space. As an employee, in a company, in a consultancy, in an agency, or as a freelancer, or we do portfolio career. What might be the vision that is good for us professionally in a few years' time, that fulfills us? So, whom to talk to about this? Who would be a good dialogue partner, a good trend receiver to help us developing the visions for us professionally? We should be talking to somebody who really knows us, who knows what we're good in, what we're capable of, where our strengths are. And it should be someone who's able to abstract from herself or from himself, to put herself or himself in our shoes. And of course, it should be somebody who observes the relevant labor market and brings that together with other tendencies in the world around us, and therefore is able to imagine us in a situation in a few years' time. And last but not least, it should be somebody who's really able to specify that on our concrete situations, to bring the trends that are observable together with our need and our capabilities. That could be a former supervisor and entrepreneur, a creative person, some kind of doer, somebody who knows us and who knows how life paths and projects develop. So our second case is on autonomous driving. Let's imagine a premium car manufacturer develops a new car and service concept for 2030 and beyond. So we need a vision for a car under conditions of autonomous driving, and who would be the dialogue partners for that. So we would want to be talking to people who are real customers, who are willing to spend the money on the product once it comes to market then. So new car buyers would be good, people from your own brand and from competitor brands. So we need people who have everyday experience with the media usage, who know what is important in terms of quality, of interior and exterior design, of all the impressions and aspects that make a good car experience. And that must come together with great antennas for the changes and the ability to abstract from the current situation where the steering wheel is so important. And then we need people with good antennas for the new possibilities, who bring associations from other aspects of life and who can abstract from the current situation to imagine a space where you can relax, where you can possibly sleep, where you can work, which can be an intensive entertainment place. Because the car as a mobile device can be a great room for sensual experiences. And so great visions can be developed here. That's what we want out of these conversations. And of course, the last aspect these people should be fulfilling is that not everything makes sense when developing a completely new car and mobile device and service concept. And they should be good in differentiating what is really important and what isn't in that case. So yeah, that's how we can develop a good vision for a new product, for a service concept, even for new business models. And we can contribute to reshape mobility in 10 years and more. Our third case is about a future healthcare system. So let's imagine a commission of the future develops the outline of a modernized health system for 2030, together with modern citizens. So what would be the vision for an attractive everyday treatment and for a system that is expandable to many? Of course, we would have people that have their own experience with treatments, with health applications, and who observe others, how they behave here and how they are treated. And then we would go for people that have a good feel for the changes here, that people change their nutrition, that we avoid sugar and gluten and other things. Then the potentials coming from the data that we gather by variables. And then the varieties in society and how that could be scaled on a larger system. So all that, when that comes together, then we can develop a meaningful vision for how millions could be treated in 2030, which uses the power by data and also the changes that come from different awareness for our bodies and for the health topic in general. The three cases are quite different, but the four trend receiver criteria can be applied everywhere. What is always crucial is that we get clear about our open topics and questions. Based on this, we can develop a search profile that is tailor-made for the respective context and contains the aforementioned criteria. A tailored search profile serves two purposes. We ourselves become clearer about who we are looking for, and we can pass the search profile on to intermediaries, people who are well connected among the people we are looking for. The numbers of conversations we lead may vary. If I want visions for my own life path, I may have 6 conversations. For a study within the early stage of an investment-intensive product, it might be up to 30 conversations. For example, 10 each in the US, China and Europe. Depending on the product or project, fewer or more dialogue partners may be involved. Generally, even well-connected persons with good access in the relevant context only know a handful of people who fit the profile really well. But that's exactly the way to go. If the intermediaries read the search profile, then internal movies pop up with the suitable persons within their network. That's how we find good dialogue partners. Once we have identified the right trend receivers, we should prepare well for the conversations. We should reflect thoroughly how we frame the conversation in questions and how we integrate existing assumptions, hypotheses, and ideas along the process. Then we should listen closely and enter into discussions where necessary. In doing so, observations are brought forward, arguments and counter-arguments are weighed up, and together we think further into the future. Basically, we should understand the various conversations as a journey in which we continue to enrich and clarify the projections and visions that arise. More information and also case studies on how to conduct these conversations and how to execute the other processes of trend receiver studies are available in various publications. For this, please also see the list of links at the end of this video. Clearly, it is worth to use the visionary competence of other people when it comes to important future topics. This is how we create visions in whose sense and implementation we believe. Such visions are powerful. They get individuals or teams and even large groups into motion. The positive ideas that we outline and that we activate verbally or visually become more and more part of our reality. Of course, like illustrated here, the path into the future is always a balancing or high-wire act with the power of vision, intuition, associations and ideas on the one hand, and the increasingly influential algorithms and immense data knowledge on the other. We need both to reach our goal. What is very important is that there is no such thing as one future. But even if our future consists of 8 billion futures, it concerns us all and we can develop access to it. Visionary competence and foresight abilities are not esoteric secret sciences that belong only to a few insiders. So, and the mentioned future lenses show that, despite all incalculability, there are normal and relatively simple approaches to future developments. At the same time, in every context, we find persons who have particularly good antennas. Dialogues with them help us to create visions and provide guidance for development processes and decisions. We shape our many futures. Let's use the visionary competence of ourselves and of others.